Alright, this is Big Boss at Foxtown Woodsball coming to you from Fort Lauderdale and from my blog page over at outerheavenpaintball.blogspot.com. I'm also repping guys from Acid Tactical, so you could check them out over at acidtactical.com. Anyway, for this particular video, we're going to be getting more into specific team positions for paintball, and as always, we're going to use a lot of U.S. military stuff as a basis for this. However, I'm also going to be explaining a few other things here and there, stuff like history, gear setup, gun setup, stuff like that. So this is a 2-for-1 deal because each one's going to have their nuances, but there's going to be a general cross match between the two. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our friends and sponsors over at Acid Tactical. We'll be back right after this.
The machine gun, arguably one of the most devastating weapon systems organic to both infantry and special operations units. The machine gun in itself is a marvel of technological engineering that is absolutely devastating in the hands of a good trained soldier or Marine. Now, with that being said, the machine gun is evolved between light, medium, and heavy machine guns, though more often than not it is also a general purpose weapon. But before that, it was considered a piece of artillery, and this dates back to the American Civil War, where the idea was that this weapon could be used as a means to protect artillery or to be a defensive fortification to protect the position from an infantry attack. In this case, this is predominantly in the north with a Dr. Richard Jordan Gatling using a rotary crank mechanism, 6 barrels, and a new self-contained cartridge. He developed a weapon system that was devastating the world over, and it bore his name. Fast forward to World War I, the American Hiram Maxim developed the concept of the machine gun using recoil-operated mechanisms, which became licensed by most of the Central Powers as well as the Entente. And with that, almost every side during the conflict had a Maxim machine gun at some point. Heavy, water-cooled, yet devastating because the tactics did not evolve with the weapons technology. Now, fast forward to World War II, the concept of a general-purpose machine gun became full circle, particularly in Nazi Germany. This was emphasized by the Maschinengewehr 34 and its more fearsome and infamous younger brother, the MG 42. These weapons were the backbone of the Blitzkrieg and was one of the things that made Nazi Germany a very dangerous military force to contend with throughout the war, because of weapons like the MG-42 that could cut down a tree with such a concentrated fire and spewing out 1,500 rounds a second. This thing was devastating. As far as the Western armies go, it was pretty much weapons like the Bren, the Browning Automatic Rifle, and modifications off the M1917 and M1919 Browning machine guns, as pictured here. This particular one is the M1919A6 machine gun, which was used by paratroopers, rangers, and groups like that. But this thing never really caught on with a lot of the mainline infantry forces, or their M1919s are used in more static positions. With the end of World War II, the concept of the general-purpose machine gun became a standard on both sides of the Iron Curtain. For the Soviet Union, this was another Kalashnikov-type machine gun, which was the PKM, general-purpose machine gun, which spat out the hard-hitting 7.62 by 54 rimmed Russian. This was used by the Moisey Nagant as well, and to this day is still a devastating weapon in the hands of Russian infantry forces. For the Americans, this would be in the 7.62 by 51 millimeter M60 general-purpose machine gun, made famous during its use by the American military during Vietnam. This weapon still kept fighting on well after mainline forces ditched it for the M240 in hands of special operations, and even the Danish Defense Force as their general-purpose machine gun, until ultimately the FN MAG, or as the Americans adopted it, the M240 general-purpose machine gun, became a mainstay and a powerhouse weapon system, still going on strong today from the mid-90s well into the global war on terror up to right now.
Okay, now hopefully that particular history portion was informative enough for the machine gun. Now, as a good example of a machine gun setup, I've got this marker right here. This was my brother's Tippmann 98 Custom. We outfitted this particular one with the Tippmann Assault Kit, which is essentially makes it look like an AK-47. Now, the only thing it didn't come with were sights and other little accoutrements. So what we did was we got our hands on a Tippmann X7 AK front sight, which fits very nicely on a 98 barrel like this. Added a generic bipod here to bring out that machine gun sensibility to it. Definitely what you need as a machine gunner. And just added on a carry handle rear sight setup with a rail system to allow it to work. We had to do some cutting here for it to accommodate the Cyclone feed system. And for the machine gun's slow but devastating rate of fire, we've got a response trigger in this thing. Now, for paintball with the machine gun, yeah, this is pretty much like any other paintball gun setup that you would find in the late 90s, early 2000s, right into like 2011, 2012 even, when magazine fed was just getting off the ground really. But what this offers is firepower. 200 rounds on tap from the hopper, though you can switch it to a 300 round or 400 round depending upon where you look. Because this is a Cyclone feed, it's guaranteed to feed pretty well depending upon your paint quality. With the response trigger, you're going to be able to get that nice sweet spot to 15 shots a second. And dug in with the bipod, definitely the kind of gun that you would want as sustained firepower for a team. Now, as far as philosophy of use on this, yeah, this is the machine gun. So, hopper fed for it would be a must. Be able to set that bipod up on any kind of a position, definitely. Now, there are two schools of thought on this as far as machine guns go. You've got your conventional mainline infantry philosophy around it, which would mean it is a crew-served weapon. Meaning, when you got this thing set up, you're rocking away, you're running low on ammo, ammo bearer or an assistant gunner will either link up another belt to the one you've got in the weapon, or they'll give you a fresh belt to pop it open, get it onto the feed tray, and get it back into action. For paintball, concept is similar, but instead of having an ammo bearer to help you link belts, they're going to be pouring paint into this damn hopper. So you got it up, you're running low, pop that lid open, your assistant gunner or an ammo bearer or a teammate in general will come up, pour that paint into the hopper, you slap that bitch shut, you're ready to get back into it. Now, because this is only 15 shots a second, this is more for your defensive firepower means, but you can go offensive with it if you must, though this would probably be a little on the heavy side. Now, with that being said, let's have a look at the automatic rifle setup.
The automatic rifle is by far one of the most devastating pieces of weaponry that is organic to both the fire team and squad level, effectively providing a solid base of fire for an infantry unit or a special operations unit. The history behind this is quite interesting, as it branched off from the machine gun category as well as being considered a rifle in its own right. But to look at the history of this with many weapons, we have to look at the beginnings of the automatic rifle. Starting off in World War I, we have what's pictured here, the French Chauchat. It was a weapon that was used by the Americans, the Poles, and the Belgians throughout World War I and into the interwar years. Firing a 8x50mm Lebel cartridge, this thing wasn't too bad, though this thing was racked with design flaws left and right, especially with the holes cut into the magazines, among other things. But what really gave it its bad reputation was the conversion to a 30-06 for use by the American Expeditionary Force, which was the one that really had the worst reputation of the bunch. They could do caliber conversions, but it was too much of a rush job for this particular weapon. As far as Great Britain was concerned, they had the Lewis gun, which was chambered in a 303 British. This particular machine gun was a better version of other machine guns used and was definitely one of the better options for the British military as well as its Commonwealth countries. You'll find this particular weapon not just in the hands of British and Commonwealth infantry, but also as aircraft armament as well. Needless to say, the thing was still limited by its magazine, as is every other automatic rifle early on in its history. Fast forward to the interwar period and World War II, we have the American Browning automatic rifle. This thing was a beast, used by both gangsters and soldiers in the interwar period and throughout World War II, Korea, and even the early years of Vietnam. The BAR packed a heavy punch and was even more devastating when paired with armor-piercing ammunition. However, this weapon, like their one next, is definitely meeting its limitations when going against a German squad with an MG42. The Bren. Bruno and Enfield. put them together, you've got the Bren. Based on a Czechoslovakian design, also firing a .303 British cartridge, this was a machine gun of choice for the British Army and its Commonwealth cousins throughout World War II, Korea, the Suez Crisis, hell, even into the early 90s, the Bren was the weapon of choice for the British military and what's left of its empire. 1970s, FN came out with an improved version of their FN Mag, which we adopted as the M240. They also got the M249, as we would call it, or the Mini-Me. This became a automatic rifle, replacing the M60 on a squad and fire team levels for the United States military, being that it fires a 5.56 round, the same as the M16 service rifle and M4 carbine. The M249 could use both disintegrating belts as well as 30-round magazines, which allowed it to be more flexible as what an automatic rifle should be, as you can see pictured here. However, there were some flaws to this particular setup regardless. The Israelis, on the other hand, took the concept and refined it with their Negev machine guns. Chambered for 5.56, this thing had a switchable gas regulator to allow it to better use rifle mags or belted ammunition. Select fire weapon system, definitely one of the better options as far as a light machine gun or automatic rifle is concerned. Then we come to the Americans again, taking cues from Germany in their Heckler & Koch M416. The U.S. Marine Corps adopted a version of it as the M27 infantry automatic rifle. This particular weapon is essentially the German/Americanized version of the Soviet RPK machine guns, which I know I didn't put any comm block weapons in this one, but the general concept is still the same. The automatic rifle is a rifle caliber cartridge, either an intermediate caliber or a full rifle caliber in many regards, but it also has the means to feed from both the drum mag, standard rifle magazine, or belts of ammunition, depending upon what model you're going for. As far as the doctrine is concerned, the automatic rifle, regardless of what country it's from, the general idea is that it provides a base of fire for infantry units to advance, or provides enough suppressing fire to keep an enemy force pinned down, so that way your guys could either egress to the target or get out of an area if they absolutely needed to.
Okay, hopefully my rundown on the automatic rifle wasn't too dry, but you've got options with the automatic rifle. Now, just as a philosophy of use concept, the automatic rifle doctrinally was supposed to keep up with the riflemen as far as your Alpha Bravo teams, your fire and maneuver elements. They could easily put down that volume of fire. Your regular machine guns would be a little further back, but the same concept for paintball is there to a certain point. Automatic rifles pretty much keep pace with the riflemen, can go close quarters, but generate a fire rate that's good to keep the opposition's heads down. Prime example of that would be something like this. This is my brother's U.S. Army Alpha Black. As you can see, this is as old school as I would get with something like this. Now, we've done some serious modifications to this over the years. We've added on a shorter Lapco barrel to allow us have that close quarters battle capability. We added on Project Salvo quad rail, which has been around for a good number of years. And yes, those parts are interchangeable. Put a grip pod on here so that way you can have a good hand grip, but also built-in bipod to really get in there if you want to get into a more defensible position. We got a Tippmann Cyclone feed on here and an E-trigger. The E-trigger is the most vital thing to get it up to that 20 shots a second. And as a hopper fed, this is pretty much the pinnacle of what an automatic rifle is in today's more modern, tactically driven paintball scene. Basically, it's an old school setup. Don't really need to do much. You could put down a lot of firepower with this thing, but keep pace with the other guys to be able to clear out rooms, engage multiple targets, or provide a base of fire for your teammates to maneuver with. Now, this is all in good, but what if you need more flexibility for something like this? Now, this is where the magazine fed guys really begin to shine on this one. This is going to be my personal marker. This is a Tippmann X7 Classic with a Takamo Mark 7 mag fed kit on here. Aesthetically speaking, I made this thing look a lot like a Heckler Koch 416, which is where I'm going to be guiding this little discussion in soon. But with the mag fed being an automatic rifle setup, this kind of a gun is pretty damn good for it, because aside from the external modifications, aside from the fact that this is now a magazine fed gun, I'm rocking a response trigger in here to get it to that 15 shot a second. So that's probably going to be the most important thing. I can still put down automatic fire with the magazines, but I'll be switching out mags pretty damn quickly. But thanks to companies like Modern Combat Sports and others in this particular sphere, you have large capacity box mags. So they've got them that you could fit for the older T68 mags, Tippmann TMC mags, Dam mags, even Milsig mags are still able to be found. And Modern Combat Sports with their box mag did it right with how they have the adapter kits for all of those. So what you do is just take off your magazines, dump them in a vest, dump them in your backpack, butt pack, pocket them, shove them down your shirt, pop in that bigger box mag, and just hit the field with it. Use it to lay down suppression fire, and if that box mag goes down because you depleted all the paint, battery runs dead, or it just malfunctions, you're not out of the fight. You can just ditch it, pop in your regular 20 round magazines, and you can still keep into the fight. Now, yeah, you've also got guns like the Assault Matrix that look like rifles, but they've got the speedball components in them to really lay down the hate. So let me give you a prime example on that one from a friend of mine, Wolf. Check him out over at the Wolf's Den while you can. And after that, we'll go right into gear. Okay, let's talk gear. Now, what kind of gear setup does an automatic rifleman or a machine gunner need in the field? Now, this vest is a prime example of something that could be done, but I've used this vest far too long when I was more active in the field. This is a Special Ops Paintball Black Cell Operative V2 vest. This thing was one of the more prevalent vests back when Special Ops Paintball was the big thing in the scene. I liked it for the full-on molly. I liked the woodland. I added a couple extra pouches on here that way I could haul 4 100-round pods up front. Got room for 2 big boy grenades. My comms gear, little odds and ends in this particular pouch. I've used the living fuck out of this stuff for fucking years. I'm not even sure if I left anything in here from my last game. No, but everything's still pretty damn good in here too. So you can tell this vest has been rather used, abused, and lived in. Now, flipping it over, here's what made this vest good for our needs as machine gunners and automatic riflemen. The back setup, as you can see, I'm using the older interlock system on here. Pretty much the strands of Velcro that are in the back. Let me pull this open. You have this Velcro here, just easily pass these pouches through, and you interlock it in here. Plus the zip part back here, stuff your hydration bladders in. This is something I did for years because I didn't want a camelback, but now the way my gear's evolved, it's like now it's a take on and off thing. But each one of these pouches could hold a 2+1, which would be a total of 3 140-round pods. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a lot of ass to carry into a paintball fight, especially in today's paintball world where magazine fed is all the rage. Now, this vest is just barely viable for all your tactical needs. I've used the living hell out of this way too long, but let's look at something a little more on the mag fed side of the spectrum. Okay, now let's look at more magazine fed options. We're taking the same philosophy as the Israelis have with the Gev machine guns. Basically, it's a belt fed machine gun. Second the belt runs dry, they just turn a little knob on the gas tube and they can pop in standard rifle mags. They had that set up for a Galil variant for their early gen Galil rifles, and their more recent iterations of that one could do actual Stanag mags. Let me find some pictures on that one. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I'm using my Molly 2 medic vest as an example of a rifle slash automatic rifleman setup, because if I'm running a box mag and that goes down because I've used up all the paint or it malfunctions on me, I've still got a full complement of magazines on here to get the job done. I recently replaced the magazine pouches on here with pouches from Voodoo Tactical, and I am proud to say that the guys at Voodoo Tactical, their pouches do work for these paintball magazines, as well as either 3AR, 2AK, or just a 100-round paintball pod. So I'd recommend Voodoo Tactical pouches for those that still want the old woodland style but need something flexible for mag fed. Now, aside from that, I've got 12 mags total on this rig, with a lot of pouches from MCS as well. You got 2, 4, 5, and 6. Now, I'm set up so that way I can access these with either hand, plus I got set up for my pistol. Now, that's the beauty about having a setup like this if I'm running the automatic rifleman, because I could just easily open this vest up and just get into that prone position to set up to put down that base of fire. Now you see a lot of guys out there wearing those quote unquote split rigs or chest rigs. It's like, if you're going to wear a split rig just to open it up to get prone, then do yourself a favor, buy a load-bearing vest like this, or buy web gear. It is easier, more convenient, and is proven. Now, what if we want to go for web gear for a more serious machine gun setup? Give me 1 second on that one. Okay, now let's say you want to run old school, but you want to do it in such a way that it's going to turn heads on a paintball field. Now, this is one setup you can actually run with. Basic, no bullshit LC2 Alice kit. Now, this is pretty much Frankenstein from years worth of use in the field. We're talking my old Blackhawk butt pack that I've used for God knows how long. I got two 30 round, two M16 mag pouches on each side to allow for general purpose utility. I could carry additional 100 round pods on. Still need to drop in some canteen pouches on this one, but that's besides the point. Still working on this particular rig to make it able to get back out into the field again, but the real kicker on this one is going to be my mag pouches here. Well, these are basic saw pouches, general utility pouches, but we're using what they were originally used for. Carry machine gun ammo. You can carry it just in here or with the ammo box. This time around, we are setting it up to work with these 200 round saw boxes. Now, for our intents and purposes for paintball, we're going to be modifying the living hell out of these to hold paintballs. And before any of you guys ask, yes, I did do the testing on this. This can actually hold up to 300 paintballs in this box. So you have a capability here to have 600 rounds on tap on your gear right up front. No bullshit. Just have all your stuff 600 rounds worth on your belt. No pods, nothing in the back. All your gear is distributed correctly the way it should be. And this particular setup as a web setup, you can actually add on with a camel bag. You can add additional items. You can throw your air tank in the butt pack or have it hooked onto the butt pack or in it. Basically, you got a wide range of options for your tactical needs in this kind of a setup. You can find molly pouches as well that will hold these saw boxes. So if that's the route you want to go, you can find the M249 saw boxes or even their 100 round nut sacks on eBay, Amazon. Check out places like Venture Surplus, stuff like that. And I will say I am still working on modifying the saw boxes to be more paintball friendly, so stay tuned for a video on that one. Alright, that's going to cover it for our look at the automatic rifle and the machine gun in tactical paintball. If you guys are liking what you're seeing, hit that like button, share this around, subscribe to the channel for more content. If you guys want to read a written version of this, check out the article over at outerheavenpaintball.blogspot.com. Also, don't forget to check out my buddy Wolf's Den on here on YouTube, as well as his other social media. And if you guys need cool molly gear or you need accessories for your paintball guns, airsoft guns, or real steel firearms as far as the rails go, check out my friends over at acidtactical.com. And remember, when the shit hits the fan and you've got to trust your gear with your life, ask yourself this one question: can your gear survive the acid test? Other than that, Outer Heaven Paintball and Acid Tactical both have Teespring shops. Links are going to be in the description to this video. And with that, this is Big Boss, and I'm out of here.